XFM. Ellis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
Hello, folks. Thanks very much for downloading the Ellis James and John Robbins podcast of our weekly XFM show. As per normal recent events, we've given you the opportunity to contact us through an email address if any of the issues in the podcast have affected you, but you haven't been able to join in with a live show. To that end, last week we were talking about lies you convinced your partner, your children, your relatives that were true, and we've got some belters emailed in to sunday@xfm.co.uk. First off, we have an email from Sarah in Birmingham, and she says, I wanted to just let you know about two of my favourite lies I managed to convince my partner was true. It's been a 12-year career, and it's now got so bad she assumes everything I say is a lie until she fact-checks it herself on the internet. These are absolute belters, these lies. First off, Jesus' middle name is Harold, hence the phrase Jesus H. Christ, and the line in the Lord's Prayer, Harold be thy name. Love it.
I love the fact there's a little bit of evidence there. It's the evidence-based ones that make me laugh the most.
And number two, Vidal Sassoon was Siegfried's brother who, whilst his older brother was busy composing poetry, cut the soldiers' hair in the trenches.
Yes.
I love Sassoon. It's a very funny word, and for a long time it was a sort of a byword in our flat in Bristol. We would call things a Sassoon. So if you want to go to the pub, you say, do you fancy some sweet Sassoons? That changed to Wassoon and then Bassoon. All because of Siegfried Sassoon.
Oh, it's a great poet's name, that. I mean, I would always prefer him to Wilfred Owen, of the great First World War poet, because he's got a better name.
Right.
This is from Adam in Stockport. These really made me laugh. I've just been listening to the podcast. The bit about winding up your girlfriend reminded me of the time I convinced an ex-girlfriend, very early in the relationship, crucially, that I won Junior MasterChef in 1996. A couple of years later, we went to visit her grandma in Milton Keynes. This was the first time I'd met her. It was a garden party, and I'd had a few beers with my girlfriend, her mum and her grandma started asking me what my winning dish was. And I had completely forgotten about my lies. So I came across as very rude when I told her grandma that I didn't have a clue what she was on about.
Oh, that's not the way to deal with that.
I also coaxed her into going to get some Welsh money from the post office when we were going to Wakestock. And one day she went into work asking her colleagues what they thought about George Bush's assassination.
Oh, wow.
But how can you? Because if the president of America, if Barack Obama had been assassinated, we would know about it within 10 seconds.
Oh yeah,
because it would be everywhere. Dave, would XFM stop broadcasting?
No, I don't think so.
So we just continue to play Bombay Bicycle Club as if nothing had happened.
I think we'd reference it. We wouldn't just go, let's go off air now.
Reference it. Why, so you'd ask me and John to do it?
Yeah.
I'd have to deal with breaking news. I would take it in my stride.
I bet you would.
I would be...
You do one of your weird partridge sort of...
No, I would be stern. I wouldn't be light-hearted about it in the slightest.
No, I mean, I must point out, we wouldn't leave it to you two.
Really?
No, we would wait for the news feeds to come through and get a journalist on the case.
Right.
We wouldn't go, John. Get me John Robbins.
But surely we would have to say something when it flashed up on the screen in the studio.
No, you'd have to get it fact-checked first. Imagine if it was like a very successful Twitter hoax and then we broke it on a national media outlet that Barack Obama had been assassinated. Imagine the trouble we'd get into.
I wouldn't know, because we wouldn't have done it intentionally. We'd have been... If we had started the scam, yes, but not if we'd just been...
Okay, I love the idea, though, because what happens, listeners, just to give you sort of a glimpse by the magician's cloth, during tracks, Dave tells us what we're going to do with the next link. So he says, right... we're going to be playing, look at what song we're going to be playing, and we need to tease that, and then we're going to be doing more of the texter, or when you talk about textual healing or whatever. The idea of Dave going sort of ashen and saying, right, change of plan. We're not doing Radiohead for Sacred Cow anymore because Barack Obama's been killed, so I just need you to riff on that. Oh, so anyway, hopefully that hasn't happened by the time you've heard the podcast, and we sound like some sort of weird prophet, Nostradamus. Hopefully Barack Obama... Well, I mean, the security around him is pretty tight.
Sure, he is alive and well in the White House, probably just having his muesli at the minute, because it'll be breakfast time there.
Yeah.
Dogs running around.
Yeah, he's probably an Alpen man, isn't he, Barack Obama?
Yeah, kids are doing their homework, and then they're allowed to watch a film, and then matters of state. So, folks, if Barack, if you are listening, because I know you are, hands across the ocean, it's a special relationship between XFM and Barack Obama. Imagine if he is listening to this.
I mean, with the
What if
internet...
one of his aides brings him a recording?
Mr. Obama, Mr. President, Mr. President.
Because they are probably sort of on the lookout for any threats.
Yeah, and Barack Obama is a huge fan of Haim.
Okay, thanks very much for downloading this, folks. And as we say, it's Sunday at xfm.co.uk. If any of the issues in today's show affect you, and I'm guessing anyone listening to this after Glastonbury, maybe on the way home, if you've got any charge left in your iPhone, unlikely, then there are at least two matters of note for you. So see you next week, 10 till 1. This is John signing out. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
Good morning, everybody. That was a band whose names disappeared from my screen.
Justice versus Simeon.
That was Justice versus Simeon by...
Them.
Oh, right. who, what was the song?
I can't remember what the song is called. We Are Your Friends.
That's it.
We are your friends, everybody. You're listening to John Robbins on XFM, smoothly handing over the change from early morning to mid-morning. I'm John Robbins, and to my left is twice runner-up in Wales's answer to The Voice, Echo in the Valley.
How do you know that?
Because I have a co-producer credit. That's not true, is it?
No. Well, I mean, I didn't get past the first round. Twice.
What would be the Welsh of Echo in the Valley? Biloch in the Hoch.
No.
What did I just say?
Well, it sounded like you was just saying cow. It sounded like you were saying bilch.
Which is probably what Welsh people call milk.
No.
Knowing a small amount about the derivation of their words.
No,
Would you like a glass of cow?
No, in South Wales we call it llath.
Udder juice.
And in North Wales we call it llefrith.
What does llefrith mean?
Milk, mate.
Oh, right.
You idiot.
So what's Echo in the Valley?
It would be Rhywbeth yn y Cwm.
Rhywbeth yn y Cwm. That's a nice name for a TV.
Yeah, it sounds like Pobl y Cwm, which is People of the Valley, which is our version of Coronation Street.
Which, have you been in that?
No, my sister has. My sister was...
it's like jury duty in Wales. Everyone has to be on Pobl y Cwm.
She was a carol singer, and she got told to get out of it by just an annoyed resident.
Oh, okay.
And, she got 27 quid, but she was only about 6, so that was an absolute fortune.
Oh, I got 40 quid from a BHS advert when I was about 9.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What? On telly?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Have I never told you this?
No.
BHS
sold out to the man.
BHS did a new school uniform range, and they came to my school and they selected basically...
Did you go to Brit school?
Basically 8 of the most flamboyant and precocious under-12s, and I was one of them, and it was called BHS School Shops, happening in a high street near you.
Oh, wow.
And I had a mullet.
Yeah. Like Chris Waddle.
Yes,
Sort of,
very similar to Chris Waddle.
that is absolutely incredible. And you got 40 quid.
Cash.
What?
No questions asked.
paid-
In an envelope.
Shut up.
Yeah. Guess how many stickers I bought with that?
Loads.
Loads.
But you can't... What? You can't pay someone cash for being in an advert?
Yeah, it was basically, because it's so cheap, it's like petty cash. Should I take them to court and get millions?
Yeah. I think you should. BHS is still a going concern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, listen up, BHS, because John Robbins is coming for you, and he's got the full weight of the XFM legal department behind him, and you are going to get absolutely diddled.
It's the XFM legal department, that guy who tells us not to swear.
No, it's Dave.
Oh, right. So how have you been, Elis?
Very good, mate, very good.
What?
But actually, a little bit jealous, because you and Dave had an excellent night out without me. Yeah. Basically, listeners, we had an XFM team meeting on Friday.
It was just basically a kind of thought exchange.
It was an ideas symposium.
Yeah.
Where we just discussed our great ideas and slapped each other on the back. And
We sort of hung around the foosball table and played some miniature pool. Elis was sucking on a Dr. Pepper. Producer Dave was slamming back a macchiato.
Yeah, I held Dave's face in my hands and I said, "You're the best producer I've ever had, mate."
And then me and Elis hit Dave with our great ideas. Inflatable headphones. Space hoppers instead of office chairs. And laser pens just for fun.
Yeah, and Dave vetoed all three of those ideas. But then what happened was I had to go to Cardiff to do a gig on the train. And, you know, it was a classic Friday commuter train. I didn't get a seat until Didcot. It's rammed. Everyone's really annoyed. The train ticket cost me about £5,000. But I started getting a lot of texts from Dave and John, excited texts, because they'd hit the bars of London's West End hard. So suddenly I started getting texts saying, "Me and Dave are on it. It's absolutely brilliant," with way too many exclamation marks. And I thought, hang on. And then I started getting photos of the carnage. And I also started getting nervous texts from Dave going, "I think John's turned."
That's not true.
It is true. John, I've never seen John like this. I think he's turned. I think he's become a bit like how you say he's been in the past. And I was texting him going, abort. Has he started crying? If he's crying, you need to get out, mate, because once Robbins is crying, well, there's no coming back from that.
I mean, it's all a blur to me, Dave. We went to a lovely little pub and had like 2 pints of ale. And then I said, "Let's have another pint of ale," and that was 3.
Yeah.
And then we went to a wine bar.
I mean, it's just
and had a cheese board.
My favourite bit was the photo I got of Dave pretending to do it with a statue of Charlie Chaplin.
Well, you should have seen what it was like with those 2 middle-aged stunners in the wine bar. I kept my distance because I have a lovely girlfriend, but Dave was just, he was off the scale. He was dancing on the bar.
He's got a fiancée.
I know, and if you're listening, Dave's fiancé, producer Dave's fiancé, I mean, I can't say what happened after I left.
I just had some cheese.
Well, yeah.
Right, Dave's now doing the timeout sign with his hands. Dave's fiancé, if you're listening, he's a really good guy and he talks very fondly about you doing songs.
FM. Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
Now, you're listening to Elis James and John Robbins on XFM. I'm having to take this link because John's too tired because he's always larging it with Dave, which means I've been pushed out, I've been cuckooed. I probably won't be on the show next week because Dave and John have formed an unholy alliance and they're trying to get rid of me with their great nights out. Which ended with Dave tweeting a picture of some ironing he was doing, so it can't have been that mental.
Well, producer D that's what we call each other now. You can't call him that, I can call him producer D.
Presenter J, carry on.
Oh. PJ and DJ.
Yeah.
DJ, PJ and Duncan.
Right.
I call him
Elis.
I call him NYPD Blue because he's New York producer Dave and his jokes get pretty blue after a few sangrias. But I'm ashamed to say this, and this would never usually happen, I had to go to a gig afterwards.
After being out on the lash with producer D.
Larging it.
Responsibly larging it.
Yeah.
Yeah, mediuming it.
You did end up ironing, Dave.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. I was home by 8.
You're not David Bowie.
So I went to my gig thinking, Robbins is off the hook here. Got to the gig, there are like 12 people there, 5 of whom are friends of the landlord's wife.
Yeah. 350 at the Clee, mate.
And is it 350?
There was 350 there on the Saturday, yeah. There was about 250
What?
on the Friday, yeah. Mate, I'm a big deal in Wales.
Yeah. So are a lot of things, and cheese on toast.
Yes, good point.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's all right.
If
Carry on with your anecdote.
if Danny from Off the Curb is listening, come on, mate, get me in for a Glee weekend.
Mate,
Jeez.
I'll see what I can do.
Thanks, man. A lot of people have said that. Anyway. Anyway, so I went to my gig. It was in like a new refurbished basement of a pub, and it looked just like someone's kitchen that they were having done, like unfinished.
Right.
But there were benches along the side, so I thought I'd have a quick lie down while the first act was on, because I was closing, mate, because that's the sort of, I like to close gigs to up to 12 people in West London that are poorly attended. And I fell asleep.
Oh dear.
For about 15 minutes.
Power nap, that could have been perfect.
Yeah, well, I woke up feeling refreshed.
Oh, good.
2 of the other acts said, you look a lot better. Well, the problem came when I got on stage about 10, and it was going fine, doing well, and this girl walked in, and I sort of made light of the fact she was interrupting the show, and that, you know, she should have been back in time for the start of the section because it was quite disruptive. And she was American, and she said, I'm sorry, did I wake you up? And it was clear that she had seen me having a nap. So my moral high ground was removed from underneath me.
Yes.
But she did continue to be disruptive. And
were there any door staff to chuck her out?
Well, no, she wasn't being Larry. She was just being kind of, you know how Americans can be quite barbed and sort of tediously arch. And I said, did they kick you out of America? Because they put up with some pretty unpleasant people. And she eventually shut up.
We got a hen night from Essex, got chucked out of the Cardiff Glee on Friday night, and as they were being chucked out, they shouted, "You Welsh don't know how to have a good time!"
Really?
Yeah. You don't know what good fun is!
I mean, they've got a point. If I'd been comparing, then they would have stuck around and had the night of their lives.
All right, fair enough. Actually, I dealt with it very professionally.
Did you?
And I wasn't the only person to say that. My cousin said it.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast
XFM.
on XFM.
Florence and the Machine there. Amusing mishearing news. I thought she was talking about her toilet, throwing something into the toilet. Which brings me on to my next story, Elis. Because yesterday I didn't get much sleep because I watched 3 Christmas specials of the Royal Family back to back with my girlfriend, and we shed a tear. I had to drive to my mum's house in Bristol, so up at 8, leave at 9, 3 hours there, lovely day with my nieces and mum and sister, and then coming back to do a gig in Leicester Square, both me and my girlfriend doing the same gig. And she said, well, we'll just drive to Leicester Square. And I thought, I've driven to Leicester Square to do the radio show. It's fine. Idiots would drive home and get public transport because I know London. We got to the end of the M4 and I quite needed a wee. I'd say about 50%. Could take it or leave it if you'd offered me one. And we hit a traffic jam. And I thought, bloomin' Chiswick roundabout. And checked on traffic on my phone, and it was only for another sort of half a mile. So it took about 20 minutes to get through, fine. Coming into London, all going smoothly. Past the BP just before Hammersmith and think, well, I'm only about 70% we need.
Yeah, and the famous Robbins rubber bladder really coming into its own by now.
Oh, yeah, up to 3-pint capacity. So anyway, I poo-poo the Hammersmith BP and think, well, just go in, we'll be in there in 20 minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't know that it was Gay Pride in London yesterday.
Oh, my giddy aunt.
And as much as I love Pride, Gay Pride gays, I don't like them more than I hate weeing my trousers in my car. We got to...
Just to set the scene, I'm guessing you don't have a spare set of trousers in your car.
Not at all.
Right, okay. So you're doing the gig in the trousers you're wearing. That's definitely happening.
But yeah, by the time we get to Knightsbridge, it has got so tense in the car with traffic and my wee need that my girlfriend has got out of the car and is deciding to get the tube in because she can't bear my company anymore. And the stress of it... I think, okay, I'm 1.6 miles from Leicester Square.
Oh.
Even if I just park up, even if I get clamped, it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. They'd closed off every single road in London. I got to I was at 0.7 miles from Leicester Square. They'd closed the road. I was on Horse Guards Road, for an hour. The road is 100 metres long. I was there for 1 hour. To my right is, I think, what park is it? Regent's Park or St James Park with all the pelicans in? I'm thinking, there's trees, but there are lots of tourists.
I'm going to wee on a pelican.
I can't wee on a pelican. I thought I could maybe jump over the fence to get behind a tree. I wasn't going to do that. I look around me in the car. What have I got? I've got a 2-litre full bottle of Highland still water.
That would have been me any day of the week.
But it's 2 litres that I'd have to empty out the window or drink, which would have perpetuated the problem.
No, has it not got a top?
Yeah, it had a top.
Well, and you wee in the bottle. And
No, because the bottle was full.
Well, you just
Well, emptying a 2-litre bottle out of my window.
You look insane, but I mean.
Well, there was also a 500ml bottle of Evian.
Too small.
Too small. There was also a 273ml cup of cold latte drink from a petrol station.
He's asking for trouble.
It's too small, but it's better entrance square footage.
Yes.
There is also a thermos which my girlfriend had green tea in. So these are my options. I'm in the car on the horse guards. The cars aren't moving at all. The problem is that I've performed this manoeuvre on motorways at about 80 miles an hour before, but there are people walking past a foot from my car. And it's not a problem if you're surrounded by cars because you can't see into the laps.
Yeah.
So I arranged my leather jacket on my lap, take off my belt, that's in the passenger side footwell, undo my fly and think, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Unfortunately, the Evian bottle, the entrance zone was too tight a gauge pipe-wise, and 3 attempts, and I just couldn't get into a situation where it was going to be problem-free.
Oh my God.
I then consider 3 or 4 fills of the cold latte cup, and I'd keep after chucking it out the window, like from a life raft.
Also, that would look like a hate crime.
Yeah. Also, it would mean I would have to stop the flow minimum 4 times.
Yeah, which can that be done?
Well, it's certainly good for your prostate.
Pelvic floor. Do men have a pelvic floor? I'm not sure they do.
No, we've got we have our pelvi aren't infinite.
Okay.
They have an endpoint. Eventually, I now get to the main junction, and I have not been able to perform. Also, they've got cameras outside because it's near it's the politics area. That's bad London knowledge. Churchill's War Rooms or wherever that is. So I move off after an hour on the horse. I've texted my girlfriend to say, I want to die. We can't meet for a Pizza Express. The situation has become too drastic. So I see a pub. So I basically drive into oncoming traffic, beep my way through, get to the pub, get out. Pub's closed.
Oh my God!
What pub is closed on a Saturday evening?
When gay people are being proud.
Anyway, I'm then just driving around back streets thinking, well, I'm going to miss the gig now. And then I see a pub and I park outside. And when it's so bad, you can't even walk.
Yeah, you're hobbling, yeah.
So I sort of waddle into this pub, which is rammed full of people. Oh. And it says a sign, toilets are for customers only, and I think, sorry, mate, unless you want a very dramatic scene, the toilets are going to have to be for visitors as well. I then go to the toilet, and it's so bad that there's actually about 30 seconds where nothing happens, because your body is in total lockdown, and then, I'm not joking, 2 minutes minimum of pure weeing.
Wow.
So, folks, potentially poorly thought through texter for today is, what's the most you've ever needed a wee?
What inspired that?
What? Have you ever had a toilet nightmare? Just a story of toilet woe where your need has exacerbated all of the twists and turns of the story.
Let's keep it wee-based.
Well, me and Elis will soften up any Sunday morning unacceptable terms But yeah, try and keep it wee-based. Me and Elis have got a couple more stories to this. I think it's a fascinating time because it's suddenly all priorities go out of the window.
Yeah.
I could have been collecting an MBE and I would have not gone.
What I like about that is I think deep down you're hoping to get an MB by the time you die.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
So we're talking about your toilet nightmares, and the texts and tweets have gone absolutely mental. So you got a couple.
We've got a great one here. Driving my bus to Brent Cross. So this is a bus driver.
An actual bus driver.
Early one Sunday morning when I suddenly needed, and I'll edit this, the toilet. It was not going to wait. I had to pull up at a McDonald's in Colindale. Luckily, I only had 3 passengers on board. Can you imagine if your bus driver just pulled up at a McDonald's? You think it was like a school trip.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I always think this because I'm often late. Maybe one of those guys, one of those people on the bus, like, had to catch a flight to New Zealand.
Yeah, possibly.
I always think that whenever a train or something's delayed, I think to myself, oh, there's some poor bloke who's paid £1,000 to get a flight to Australia and is going to miss it now because of delays.
I really like this one from Joe in London. He says, "Morning, dudes. When I was at uni in Sheffield, a bar, in an attempt to lure frugal students through its doors, had a night called Free Till You Pee." And he says, you can Google this, where the premise for the evening was all the drinks were free. Hang on, come on, Joe in London. You don't write like you've been to university in Sheffield. So basically what he's saying is from 9 o'clock, the doors were locked and all drinks were then free until the first person went to the toilet.
How is that policed?
Mad uni stuff. He says, needless to say, the good times only lasted about an hour. The management called the night off when someone went to the toilet in a plant next to the dance floor. And then this also, there was a suspiciously large amount of full unfinished drinks dotted around the venue.
I love students. They give me for a lot of stick. I love that stuff.
Do you know what you strike me as?
What?
Someone who would be an excellent member of an SCR.
Oh, like an ENS officer or something?
Yeah, someone who sort of graduated 4 years ago. He's stuck around. He puts on gigs.
Yeah.
You know, he sort of runs the comedy night. He helps oversee the elections.
Oh.
He tries to sort of imbue in the new students his love of student politics.
When I graduated in 2002, do you think Cardiff University will have me back?
Yes, I think they would, as an honorary sort of entertainment
I could
officer.
get life membership to the Students' Union and still have a great time, even though I'm in my 30s.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
It's time for that part of the show. One of our favourite bits, it's Sacred Cow.
XFM's Sacred Cow. Sacred Cow. Sacred Cow.
Sacred Cow, it's where John and I battle it out, where we discuss often a band that we think might be slightly overrated. Those bands, you know, that always sort of end up on the front cover of music magazines, that we think are sort of too venerated and need to be taken down a peg or two. It's John's turn to prosecute this week. So, John, who do you fancy?
Well, it's a controversial change of tack in Sacred Cow because this week, Elis, I am nominating corporate behemoth, overpopulated den of muddy thieves. It's the Glastonbury Festival.
Oh.
That's right, listeners. I am pushing the boundaries of what is possible on radio by this week nominating an entire music festival, an institution, a British wall-to-wall over-BBC'd sludge fest. It's Glastonbury Festival.
I have a good reason for this, John.
Well, I've got so many good reasons for this. Too many people, rubbish, busy, crime, drugs, poor bands, I think.
But there's hundreds of bands on at Glastonbury.
Yeah, but no Brill ones.
There's plenty of Brill ones. What are you on about, you Asians?
Well, I just have absolutely zero interest in going.
In your spiritual side?
No, hey, well, don't get me started on that. I used to visit Glastonbury regularly in the 90s, but Glastonbury Village, where Glastonbury Festival isn't, it's in Pilton.
That is true.
It's 4 miles away from the spiritual home of Avalon, where Joseph of Arimathea bought the young Christ, placing his staff in the ground, which turned into a tree that blossoms every year. On Christmas Day, and they send a sprig of it to the Queen. That is not what's up for debate. I am a huge fan of the town of Glastonbury. What I'm not a fan of is 180,000 people in the same field needing a wee.
Oh, but it's magic, John.
It's not magic.
Incredible, and it's more than just. It's not like I've been to all the festivals.
You've been to all the festivals? That's not true.
All the big ones in this country.
Have you been to the Isle of Wight Festival?
That's not in this country.
Yes, it is.
It's not on the mainland. Oh,
Have you been to Hop Farm?
Yes, I have been to Hop Farm.
Fair enough.
And I've been to Truck Festival in Oxford. I've been to Reading and Leeds, and I've been to the V Festivals in Chelmsford. And
Have you been to the greatest festival ever in the history of the world, which is Bristol's Ashton Court Festival?
Full name, mate.
No, did you?
Yeah, and I did really badly. Move on. However, Glastonbury is different. Like before I'd been to many festivals, I used to think that it was just like a slightly bigger Reading or Leeds, but it absolutely dwarfs Reading and Leeds.
I don't think that's a good thing.
It's the city size of Cambridge, and
so what? Well, go to Cambridge. Go to a lovely pub. Look round the historic university colleges and cathedrals.
But when they get huge headlining bands, obviously they had the Stones last year, they had the Who a few years ago. Seeing the Who, the Stones, with 150,000 other people is amazing. And also, the thing with Glastonbury is that it is different to Reading or Leeds, which are really corporate and stuff, because
loads of people from Manchester don't set fire to all the toilets.
That is definitely true.
Which happens every year,
Dave
Dave.
is furious.
Not all from Manchester.
Well, the surrounds.
When I went
Not true.
When I went to Reading and Leeds, I saw the Arctic Monkeys. When I went to Reading about 7 or 8 years ago, and everything was on fire. I mean, it was like
the last time I went to Reading, it wasn't just a disappointing end. I was like, I'm not coming back here.
Well, it was like watching Arctic Monkeys live from hell, in that I was surrounded by about five fires that had been lit irresponsibly. But the thing with Glastonbury is it's not just about the music, because there's the left field tent and stuff. I saw Tony Benn speak at Glastonbury, and it was absolutely amazing. There's it's just got loads of other stuff. You don't have to see any bands at Glastonbury. You can just like chill out next to a sculpture that's been made from a sort of an old Citroen Saxo. It's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, you're still not selling it to me.
Don't you like art, mate? Don't you like sculpture?
Yeah, well, I'll go to a sculpture museum with toilets and I'll leave a £5 donation.
Such a great guy.
Also, I mean, you're talking to a man who I last year, my Edinburgh show last year, Where Is My Mind, was written entirely about an experience at a festival in 1999 or 2001. So I'm not anti-festivals. It's also available for download at johnrobbins.bandcamp.com. But, you know,
Very good, actually.
Thanks, man. I have no interest in living in squalid conditions for 3 days to be, I know people. My friend went to Glastonbury the year that they accidentally filled one of the tents with sewage.
Oh, yeah. Great year. It's another great Glastonbury anecdote.
You played at Glastonbury, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you said it was one of the worst experiences of your life.
I am trying to defend Glastonbury, John.
But the problem is, people mythologise it, whereas the thing actually, when you're there, you maybe have like 2 or 3 hours where everything's right, you don't need a wee, you've got lovely cider on the go, your mates are there, you're all in the same place. The rest of it's just logistical pain in the arm.
So, listeners, let us know, tweet us at 83936 or tweet us at... Did I just say tweet when I should have said
This is why Elis isn't trusted by producer D. Text us 83936 or tweet AlexFM if you want to get in touch and cast your vote as to whether Glastonbury Festival is sent to the paddock of sacred cows, which Glastonbury Festival would probably cover in mud, charge you £10,000 for a bag of chips, and there'd be a long queue for the booze tent, probably sponsored by some capitalist oligarch, or send them to the abattoir where they'll be minced into burgers that we would not legally be able to sell at Glastonbury because they wouldn't be organic.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
The finest band to come out of York. That was Shed 7 with Going for Gold. I absolutely used to love Going for Gold. just trying my best.
Can you remember the theme tune?
As to the quiz show?
Yeah.
No.
The heat is on. The time is right. Da-da-da-da, for you. Da-da-da-da. People are dinner. Everyone's dinner. Trying to do just the best that they can when you're going for gold.
Hello.
Fun fact about Henry Kelly.
Yeah.
Once got drunk on a train when he was very young and fell asleep on his hand and damaged all the nerves in his hand, so he's now got a withered hand.
Joking.
Yes, I once played a charity cricket match with him when I was about 17.
Does that make him a good spin bowler or a bad spin bowler?
It makes him a very difficult one to read. It was the Lord's Taverners against Thornbury third 11 or second 11, and his kids were with him, and they said, "Daddy, can we have £1?" And he said, "Oh, come on, I've already given you £1." "But Daddy would like some pounds." "No, I've already given you £1." They were literally going for gold. But very nice man, frugal, but of course you're going to be frugal when you know you're limited time in the sun as presenter of Going for Gold, and also played a part in the rise of John Richardson, because John Richardson's first sort of comedian, John Richardson, I should say, who's one of his first regular posts was as the satirical summariser on Henry Kelly's BBC Radio Swindon show.
Was it? Is that what Henry Kelly's doing then?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's doing that now.
Oh.
He gets someone else to come and do the...
Please, Daddy, please.
Sorry.
We've gone slightly off topic.
Yes.
We're discussing Sacred Cow on XFM this morning, and instead of a band that's overrated, John Robbins has decided to break from the norm and nominate the Glastonbury Festival.
Voice of the people.
Well, not 180,000 people, mate, who've desperately scrabbled for tickets.
That's not even half of who saw Queen live in Rio in '84.
I don't believe that's true.
It's true, they played 250,000 people.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
I remember seeing an advert, a video, an interview. That was the third time of asking. An interview with Freddie Mercury. They said, "What's it like to play in front of 250,000 people?" And he went, "I don't know, because I've never done it."
Yeah, but that was before the gig.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. It was him doing a joke. I remember the interview. The interviewer is Brazilian, and he goes, "Buenasito, Benin, coming to the Queen, Freddie Mercury. Hi, Fred. Fred, what's it like to play in front of 250,000 people?" "I don't know, I haven't done it yet, darling." Big laughs. Mercury, Taylor, May, Deacon.
And 180,000 is more than half of 250,000.
All right, just... Good Lord, it's like doing a show with Simon Singh. So, back on track for the second time. We are discussing Glastonbury as a sacred cow.
I accept the mod argument that you can't wear suede desert boots at Glastonbury because of the mud. And I don't like... I mean, I like to wear iron shirts, Dave. So Glastonbury is a nightmare for me. Well, I love the point that Liam Gallagher made when Oasis headlined in about 2005, when he came on wearing that pristine white coat. So I thought, yes, Liam, you're letting everyone know that you like a shower. Well done.
I do dislike the fact it's a massive BBC love-in, and they go crazy about it like it's the World Cup. And I just think if,
It's a World Cup of bands, John.
Yeah, but if Fern Cotton had to actually stay in a tent in the mud, I'd actually look so bright and breezy and positive about being there. So we've had an awful lot of stuff in, a lot of negative anti-Glastonbury feeling, and I'm sure that's probably partly to do with people just sick of hearing about it. We've had a text from H, maybe from Steps, certainly a text. I thought he's from Leeds. He's not from Leeds. He says, "I hate all that free hugs expletive removed. I would actually prefer it if they wanted to hug me so they could steal my purse out of my bag, rather than just being a cheesy attempt by virgins," can I say that, to try to ensnare an out of their head female reveller makes me sick. Much prefer Reading and Leeds. Well, that's because he sounds like he likes a fight.
He sounds like he likes setting fire to things.
Try and nip me wallet, mate. Just try, yeah? You want a free hug? I'll give you a Leeds hug, mate. I can see that, though. I know
what's that? Sculpture made out of an old Citroen Saxo. It's rubbish, mate. That is absolute rubbish.
Do you want? I'll give you a Leeds sculpture if you want. H has got in reply to say it's Helen and that she's female in 2 separate texts.
Right.
Second one not really necessary there, Helen. But I think my stepbrother in-law, is that a thing? Went to Glastonbury and he had his tent cut open and all his stuff nicked. Oh. I just think we know you can be all peace and love, but there's still scum there. Do they have a sort of portable police station there?
There must be old
like an inflatable Met. I'd love that. Anyway, folks, so thank you for all your texts and tweets on the touchy subject of Glastonbury. We will now throw to P. Diddley, producer Dave, who has totted them all up, and we will find out whether it's paddock food or abattoir bound for Glastonbury Festival.
Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with the outcome of this.
Do you?
I'm not happy with the...
I love it!
And also, it's because possibly most of the people who would have wanted Glastonbury in the paddock is because they're at Glastonbury.
Well,
Glastonbury's gone in the abattoir. I can't believe it.
Oh.
Yeah!
I mean, but surely, isn't it?
Just imagine that. Dreadlocks everywhere.
FM. Elis James and John Robbins podcast.
Time for textual healing.
I told her that I was in Bend It Like Beckham. I have a doll's house in my bedroom. I think I've just drank some wood. Right?
XFM.
Textual.
This is that feature, that time of the show where a caller will contact the show, contact John and I with a problem, and we offer our own sideways look at solving it.
And this week, it's a textual healing first.
Yeah.
Because we have a transatlantic textual healing seeking the soothing salve of Elis and I's advice. And I'm very pleased to say that joining us live from Antigua, which I'm guessing is some kind of paradise owned by a billionaire.
Isn't it near the Isle of Man?
And absolutely not. Is George Ann. George Ann, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello. What are you doing in Antigua?
Well, my mum and dad's family are originally from here.
Oh.
So I would come over once in a while to visit grandparents and a pet donkey called Boris.
Oh, lovely stuff. Named after which Boris? Karloff, Johnson, Becker?
Actually, Johnson, because my dad thought the tuft of hair at the top looked quite like his.
Oh, okay. So he's the mayor of his own sty? Paddock? I don't know.
Yeah.
What does a donkey live in?
He just runs around the garden.
Oh, chilled. Well, thanks so much for calling, Georgianne. Now, now your problem is not Antigua-based, is it?
No, it's not.
So, talk us through your issue.
Well, 2 years ago, when I was 16, I moved to New York to go to university.
Ooh.
And I quite like it there. It's pretty metropolitan and awesome. But I've run into a problem where I go to the local Starbucks near my school and in my apartment every day for writing and such services. And the local barista there seems to have a crush on me.
Oh,
So-
how do you know he's got a crush on you?
So if I order like a tall latte, it would upgrade me to a grande for free, like the bigger size.
Nice.
Or put like smiley faces on my, like instead of putting my name or after my name, he put like a smiley face.
24/7 player. Absolutely love it. He's read my pamphlet.
But I'm kind of worried to confront him because I'm scared. You know, in America, people can be crazy, like some kind of secret axe murderer, and trying to get women.
I mean, would an
Can I
axe
get one of
murderer...
this?
is one of the markers of an axe murderer that they put smiley faces on takeaway coffee cups?
Yeah, use of
No,
emoticons.
but like,
not sure Ted
that might
Bundy
be
did
how
that.
he like attracts them. That might be how he like attracts them, like gets them all comfortable with like skinny little lattes and then helps it.
Well, I know quite a lot about the psychological profiles of serial killers.
He really does, Georgian.
And one of the things is they can only fake sort of interpersonal skills. They're not actually very good with people, so they can be quite charming, but I doubt he would have got through the Starbucks "Are you good with people?" test. But so basically, what do you think's the downside of maybe going for a date? What are you worried about? That he might just be mad?
It's that, and also like because I'm pretty young and pretty like inexperienced because I went to all girls schools all my life and stuff. So I'm just like kind of perturbed by his attentions.
So how old do you think this barista is?
He looks like around 21-ish.
Okay.
And how old are you?
I'm 18, going on 19.
Okay,
That's fair enough.
I think that's all right. He may be wise in the world of coffee, but I'm sure you could teach him a thing or two about romance. But, I mean, my main problem here, Georgian, is as a frugal man, I'm concerned that if you were to go on a date and things went wrong, you would then have denied yourself the opportunity of a free upgrade from a Vento to a Grande every day for the rest of your life. And if, as I am, you're a fan of Martin Lewis, the money-saving expert, he showed that if you were to put your £2.50 a day on your Starbucks in a savings account, over 20 years, you would have saved £30,000. So do not disrespect the amount of potential money this guy is saving you.
What are you studying, Georgian?
Economics.
So you're probably going to make the money back with some excellent decisions anyway.
Or you'll be well aware of the effects of compound interest. So, I mean, what would be quite sweet is this sounds a bit like a sort of a Wes Anderson film where in your 90s you'll still be going back to the coffee shop and he'll still be putting a smiley face on your com plan and it would sort of be a love story that never comes to an end. So what...
No, well, like... Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, well, like, I sort of figured I could walk in one day and, like, be like, like the commercial for Match.com, like, I like espresso, and then he could just join in, and we could run off and book them together.
Are you a ukulele player?
I tell you what you could do, Georgian, is when you've finished with your coffee, you could hand back the cup to him and say thanks very much, and it's got your phone number on it.
Oh, John Robbins.
Screenplay writer for many a rom-com.
Oh, well, I think that's perfect advice. I'm not creepy enough to offer advice like that, so but I think John Robbins has nailed it. So, Georgian, yeah, that's our suggestion, that you write your number, maybe use some sort of smiley.
Yes.
You know, people like that.
Make sure you do hand it to him, and make sure you really sort of hold it there and nod at it so he knows, so he doesn't just sort of think, why is she handing me an empty cup, and then throw it in the bin.
Yes, definitely. The smile and nod is absolutely crucial in this. But
Though, do bear in mind, Georgian, I would maybe one day go in disguise and just check that he doesn't do this to every single woman in there, because he may be a 24/7 player, and that would be quite a cunning tactic. So just observe him and see if he does it to anyone else. And if he does do it to anyone else, empty the latte over his head and scold him for life.
Wow.
That's quite dramatic.
Well, we're dramatic people. Thank you very much, Georgian. You're listening to XFM.
Thanks very much for calling. Bye-bye.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM.
Folks, it's time for our favourite feature. It's time for Winner Plays On! Woo! Where me and Elis will battle it out over our specialist topics each week. If we're successful, over 5 questions each, we get to play our chosen favourite track. If we lose, we have to suffer the ignominy of defeat and change our topic. Last week, Sherlock Holmes destroyed 15 Welshmen and Proud.
Yeah,
That was who it was last week?
1988 Welsh Triple Crown winning team.
Yes, this week I am still with Sherlock Holmes. And Elis, who's your topic?
My hometown of Carmarthen.
His hometown of Carmarthen. My track, Should I Inevitably Win, is Karma Police by Radiohead. Elis, what's yours?
Australia by the Manics.
Okay, so I'm flicking a coin. See who goes first. Elis, heads or tails?
Tails for Wales, please, John.
Tails for Wales it is.
Okay, I'd like to go first.
Okay, 5 questions on Elis's hometown of Carmarthen coming up now. What 3 postcodes does Carmarthen cover?
SA31.
Correct.
SA29, SA30.
No, went the wrong way. It was SA31, 2 and 3. Clearly, Elis not keeping up with his correspondence in his hometown. What 2 UK parliamentary constituencies are in Carmarthen?
Oh, Carmarthen East and Dynevor and Carmarthen West and South Pembrokeshire.
Correct. In 2011, what was the population of Carmarthen?
It's about 16,000.
I'll give you that bang on. It's 15,854.
Okay.
Carmarthen lays claim to be the oldest town in Wales. But in what year were the old and new Carmarthen united into Carmarthen?
It's 1530, 1532, 1535.
It's 1546.
I think that's close enough to be half a point.
What is the name of Carmarthen's athletics team?
Oh, the Carmarthen Harriers.
Correct. Hey, that was good, man.
Cheers, mate.
3 out of 5 there. I think a strong... I thought you'd get the postcodes.
Yeah, well... Yeah, I mean, I'm not writing enough letters, and now the listeners know. Okay then, John, 5 questions on the life and times of Sherlock Holmes, starting now. What was the original name for a study in Scarlet?
Sherlock Holmes Investigate.
No, it was a Tangled Skein.
Oh.
Where was it published? First published?
The Strand magazine.
No, some of his others were, but Study in Scarlet was actually published first in Beaton's Christmas Annual of 1887.
Kind of knew that.
Name Dr. Watson's future wife introduced in The Sign of the Four.
Mary Morstan.
Yes, correct. Name the gang of young street urchins Holmes occasionally employs to aid his investigations.
The Baker Street Irregulars.
Correct. Who played Holmes in a 1914 film adaptation of A Study in Scarlet? This is a very interesting question, this, I think.
I know. Charlie Chaplin.
No, it was James Braggington, an accountant who'd never acted before or since.
Oh. I think that's not very interesting.
I think it is, because...
It's not interesting as in it's interesting enough that you'd know the answer.
It is, because somebody saw him and thought that he looked like what they imagined Holmes looked like. So they said, do you fancy doing some acting? And he went, all right. And he was an accountant, and he never acted again. But he was in a film, which has since been lost because it was made 100 years ago.
Right, so I have a good chance of knowing that then, haven't I? I've seen a film from an actor no one's ever heard of that doesn't exist anymore. I might as well have dreamt it.
I think surely that's going to stick out in the history of Sherlock Holmes. If, bearing in mind he's been played by so many sort of screen legends, well, they just got some accountant.
Why didn't you ask a question about one of the screen legends?
Because I thought that'd be too easy, and you know loads about Sherlock Holmes.
Brett. You know, he's the best, Jeremy Brett.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, well, that's a victory for the 15,854 people of Carmarthen over the world's greatest ever detective. I'm a bit annoyed, but fair enough. I asked you some pretty tough questions there and you came through.
What's your specialist topic going to be next week?
I'll have a think about it and let you know after your track, which is...
Australia by the Monastery Preachers.
Elis James and John Robbins podcast. XFM. On XFM.
Australia by the Manic Street Preachers. That was my choice because I won Winner Plays On with my hometown of Carmarthen. John lost. He had Sherlock Holmes for the second week running. John, have you decided what your specialist topic's going to be next week?
Yes, next week I'll be answering 5 questions on film The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, right. And I know how much you love that because you've waxed lyrical to me about Silence of the Lambs when we've lived together. You've acted bits out.
You've got video footage of me doing that, which legally we can't tweet.
Yeah, if you've seen the film, ladies and gentlemen, you'll know which bits John acted out for me in the kitchen of our flat in Edinburgh, which legally we simply... Well, it's post-watershed stuff. Right. So,
folks, usually in Winner Plays On, in case of a tie, we pre-prepare a tiebreaker where me and Elis have to guess. It's usually sort of an estimation round. I mean, I've yet to lose a tiebreaker actually No, Elis has won one tiebreaker. Dave, do you want to talk people through what this week's tiebreaker was?
Yeah, well, just in case there was a tie, the question was, and I've got both answers here, which I got in the song before we played Winner Plays On this week. In acres, how big is this year's site of Glastonbury Festival?
Do you want to give them the answer and then tell them what each of us guessed?
Yes, so the answer is actually 1,200 acres.
Well, I think it's too small. That sounds too small.
So that's 1,200 acres, folks. So do you want to let people know what my answer was for that,
Yeah,
Dave?
so you were actually a little bit high, John. You went for 1,740 acres, so a little bit high.
So how high by how many?
Well, just over 500. 540.
Okay, cool. What was Elis's guesstimation for that?
96,000.
96,000 acres, which is the equivalent of about 40,000 rugby pitches. I don't know if you can imagine an area that big.
It's a big festival.
Just going to put that in context for listeners. That's about 150 square miles. The county of London is 74,000 acres. So that's 20 short of what Elis thought Glastonbury Music Festival was. It is 60 times greater than the size of Gibraltar. And 2,000 acres larger than the Isle of Wight. So I think we've really found the chink in Elis's armour is acreage guesstimation, because previously he had a tie break where his acreage guesstimation was out.
Well, you know, Glastonbury's overwhelmingly big, and I'd been confused by that.
So is Gibraltar.
Yeah. and B, you know, I mean, I had to leave school at 14.
Did you? No, you didn't.
I worked at Steelworks, mate.
You did history at Cardiff University.
I left school at 14 to look after my little brothers.
You haven't got any brothers, you got two sisters.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
Talking of toilets, though, I once needed a wee so badly when I was doing the Leicester Comedy Festival. I was driving up from Cardiff. I needed a wee from Newport, but we were late. And all of the comics were in the car with me. That we hit terrible traffic. It was on a Friday. We had the promoter on the phone going, "Where are you? The show needs to happen." I couldn't stop because the comics were like, "Surely you're a young man, your bladder can cope with it." By the time I had my wee, my gentleman's agreement had changed shape.
Right, that's I love this text. This is from Bob in Battersea. This is a real epic. Hadn't seen my girlfriend for 5 months, got carried away with champagne, etc., and woke up a little worse for wear. We were flying that morning and had to check out at 10 a.m. Given how late we got back and the fact I had a shocking headache when I woke, she was distinctly cranky. I struggled to remember where I was and what was going on. That's when the reason for her crankiness became apparent. In my drunken stupor, I had mistaken our bag as a urinal. How you done that, I have no idea. And unwittingly leaked all over her only pair of jeans, her makeup, hairdryer, and both our passports. We had 20 minutes to check out and a flight to catch with 2 sodden passports, spent champagne, and a hangover. Needless to say, 20 minutes attempting to dry the passports using the hand dryer. Soon realised there was no escaping the fact that my girlfriend and I would have to hand them over to very serious border control. Only minutes later, needless to say, she became my ex-girlfriend swiftly. What a nightmare.
XFM. Elis James and John Robbins on XFM podcast.
That was the Kings of Leon with Fans there. Exciting news, guys. If you are fans of the Kaiser Chiefs, then you can come and see them at XFM on the roof doing an acoustic set to a handful of people, super exclusive. And all you need to do, it's on Monday 30th of June, by the way, tomorrow. Me and Elis might be there. Are you going to go, El?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So you get to meet Elis James. You get to shake the hand of Elis James, who may be there. Just to wrap up our feature for today, which was sort of wee nightmares, and to really throw a spanner in the works to those people who are tweeting and texting and say it's not entertaining to talk about this sort of thing. Go back into your cave. It's the 90s. Grow up. We have got a great one here. I like this. This would be my nightmare scenario. My friend and I were locked on a coach at the Chilean-Bolivian border overnight. Speaking no Spanish, but desperate for a wee, she had to rally some locals to help her break off the bus. Then, in darkness, she ran straight into a guard with a machine gun, eventually found the loo and walked in to an indigenous lady who started screaming. I slept through the whole thing. That's from Lindsay in Acton.
Surely, though, I mean, the fear of seeing a machine gun would just make you wee yourself on the spot.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
I almost need a wee when I see the machine gun anyway. But if I actually need to run anyway and have been locked on a bus.
Yeah. I remember when security got very, very tight at airports after, I think it was 7/7, going to Cardiff Airport, and there were two guys with machine guns outside, like by the Costa Coffee, and I was like, ah!
Yeah, it looks weird when you see it next to W.H. Smith's.
Yeah.
and you think, I could get shot by a machine gun or just buy a copy of the South Wales Argus.
But whatever you do pay for it, because otherwise retribution will be swift and indiscriminate. We also had one here in the early 90s. I had a plumber working in my bathroom and had to do a wee in a stolen pub Castlemaine yellow ashtray in my bedroom. Probably oh, no, shouldn't read that. Sorry. She's an anonymous female. Surely an ashtray wouldn't have provided the necessary volume unless I have misread what she has asterisked out there and it was an altogether different affair. Maybe that is an example, fair play, of one I shouldn't have read out.
I think the type of tweet you should have read out, maybe it's from Ed Shots, Edward Moore. He's a photographer, isn't he? Oh, I've forgotten about why I'll never return to Preston Park Travelodge. Hashtag wrong door. Hashtag no glasses. Hashtag locked out of the room. Hashtag weeing in the corridor. I don't think those hashtags are going to catch on, but I sort of admire the attempt.
Oh, are you doing anything fun this week, Elis, apart from seeing the Kaiser Chiefs?
I am in a sitcom and rehearsals start tomorrow, which is why I might not be going to see the Kaiser Chiefs. I just remembered that.
Because Elis is a famous actor.
I will be.
Probably hanging out with the Baldwins.
Yeah. Stanley Baldwin, Prime Minister of Britain in 1931.
Yes, you're going to be hanging out with Stanley Baldwin in Hollywood. Now, I'm just going to double check. Are we now saying goodbye, Producer Dave?
Yes.
We are, because I made an error a couple of weeks ago.
I'm haunted by it. I will not say goodbye on XFM anymore because I'm so convinced I'm just going to get it wrong. So what actually happens is when Sunta comes in, obviously today it's Deacon Rose, I just keep broadcasting.
So, folks, thanks for all your texts and tweets. Oh, we've had a nice tweet in to make up for all the people who didn't like our Wii-based chat. Thank you so much, she says. First time I've heard the show. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. We'll be back next week. Well, we will be back next week. If you're listening to this on the podcast, because maybe you're at Glastonbury, where I'm guessing you'll have something to say about sacred cows and wee nightmares, then you can email sunday@xfm.co.uk and we will read that out on the podcast intros. For those who want to catch up with past winner plays on, etc., then do download the podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Ellis James. Goodbye.
If you like this podcast, why not check out some of the other great ones available to download at xfm.co.uk. XFM. Josh Widdicombe.
Now we come to the point in the show where we are joined by our third kind of resident news hound in a way. Not the major news, but let's leave it for him. Please welcome Nish Kumar. Hello.
Good morning, or is it?
There's the catchphrase. It's very rare that someone gets a catchphrase so soon. Brucey had to wait 20 years, I imagine.
I've been waiting my entire life to get a catchphrase, and not one that the public picked up on. I've always wanted to engineer my own catchphrase.
Like Paul Ince, when he called himself the governor.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to force the nickname NK47 when I was at school, but it didn't really come off. Gangster rapper.
Music that rocks.